I want to talk about the fact that you don't really exist. And I want to use Emma as an example over Graham Platner. Okay, here's Emma. And I also want to use a bunch of other TikToks. But because I do philosophy through pop culture, this is one of my favorite topics. Who is the I and do you even exist? Who is the you? So listen to this section that was going viral from Emma, and let's have this conversation about concepts around do as I say, not as I do. And do people even exist when you support them? Are you supporting them or their ideas? Are you dating them or their ideas? And let's wrap it into a philosophical framework, because I think this is going to be good. Okay, listen to this.
I'm asking, did that make you think back to your previous advocacy and say, I shouldn't have advocated for this man?
I think it made me... I don't know if it made me think I shouldn't have advocated for this man in particular. I think, I made an assessment based on the information that was available. And I think that there are a lot of, I am wary of over-focusing on an individual's personal character over their platform. I've said this before. I don't really care if, say, like Bernie Sanders or AOC go home and they're a secret Nazi, but they go out and they vote for the right things. Like, we're talking about
you don't
politicians
care?
As... I mean,
I don't know about that. I'm like, I think these are the lines that people are talking about. Some people care about that exact thing.
But why would it matter if they're public officials and they're doing the right thing in public? That's an extreme example to essentially say that these are politicians who are people that they're levers of power and they're tools. I'm not here to say that they're like, the greatest person on the planet. This is about a representation of the values of a party platform, about taxing billionaires, about bringing material differences to people's lives and changing their lives. And that's what I value more than anybody's individual conduct. Because I mean, it said, how many horrible people are in Washington right now?
For sure. But
who are centrist or center-right. It's just that there's an over-focus, I think, sometimes on the character of left-wing candidates. Darry-Lisa Avila-Chevalier just faced this in her race up in New York 13. And they get picked apart in ways that others don't, because particularly about their stances on taxing billionaires and, frankly, on cutting arms to Israel.
I guess I'm saying, though, like, I totally understand the focus on ideology over individual conduct, but there's the question of winning elections, and some of these personal conduct scandals have the effect of dooming folks in that race. I mean, the reason why...
Okay, pause. So outrageous, ridiculous. This is what I've heard my whole life from people. Now, I have an autistic sense of justice. Sometimes it is and will become a disability, but because we're introspective, we do the work, we can discern the differences between feeling like, hey, what are you doing? And the reality and acceptance that people are what they are. So Emma says, what does it matter if Bernie Sanders or AOC are secretly Nazis, is if in public they act a certain way? This was exactly what Destiny, the streamer, said to me when we had our falling out. Because I said, do not take advice from this man. He is a serial cheater. He abandons his kid. He's not a good father. And he said, his audience said, they harassed me for multiple years over this. What does it matter how bad of a person he is in his personal life? If he does good for the Democrat Party, if he's doing good for canvassing, if he's bringing people together, if he's sending out a good message. What is the message that he is sending out is if in his private life, he's a mess. This is why I say to you, I cannot be in politics, because she's right. Most of the people in politics are bad fucking people. Good people go to die politically, and then you're not even yourself. You're an image of yourself. You're a platform or a framework or a script or a whatever. Insert propaganda here. And this is why I say be very careful with whether or not this person is embodied values or it's their image. Okay? So this is the problem with Emma, and this is the problem with all of these people, is I'm saying this is very common. This is exactly what politics is. This is not abnormal, right? This is not abnormal. This is actually typical, which is why I will not be in politics. Because every time I was there, it was like, oh, you'll have to grift, or you'll have to say things publicly that are different than your private life. And this is why this is bad. Okay? Let me show you this video to kind of have this conversation in a deeper way. Okay? This is Zay. We love Zay.
You shouldn't believe a word that I say, because I don't exist. See, as a niche internet micro-celebrity, I get recognized in public a decent bit, and it's always interesting to me where and how I'm getting recognized. Because almost always, it's at a concert and it's by someone who recognizes me for my videos about linguistics or accents. And it's interesting to me because I haven't posted a video about accents since March. People know me as the accent guessing guy, but I haven't posted a video like that since February. And my point here probably isn't what you think it is. I'm not the accent guy. I am the accent guy, I'm just not me. To best explain, we need to look at the painting La Trahison des Images by the Belgian painter René Magritte. You've definitely seen it before. It's this painting of a pipe with text under it that reads, "This is not a pipe." because it's not a pipe. It's an image of a pipe. And in that same vein, I just lied to you, because ceci n'est pas une peinture d'une pipe. Ceci n'est pas une peinture d'une image d'une pipe. C'est une image d'une peinture d'une image d'une pipe. Similarly, the accent guy is not Zay Dupree the person. They're a representation of Zay Dupree. The guy who makes videos about hating white people is not Zay Dupree. They are a representation of them. I'm not Zay Dupree. I'm a representation of Zay. This is what Marie was getting at with la trait dans des images. A representation is not the thing, especially as the representation becomes more curated and thus further and further from its referent. And so when you're watching these videos, you aren't watching the same person you see in the crowd at a Jane Remover show. You're watching a representation of them. And that representation that I am in this moment is different from the one that you're watching. And given that context, I think it's important to understand not only how creators create their own representations, but also how your internal biases reshape them and create new representations. For example, about a week ago, I posted a brain rot edit of a normal Zay Dupree video. It looked like this. And a lot of people in the comments thought there was some sort of social experiment or meta-commentary on the state of internet content creation. And truthfully, it wasn't. At least Zay Dupree the person and Zay Dupree the content creator did not intend for it to be. But you aren't watching either of those people. You aren't watching Zay Dupree the person or Zay Dupree the content creator. You're watching a representation of Zay Dupree the content creator that you created in your own head, informed by what you think you know about them. But you have to remember that you can't trust them because they don't exist. They're a representation of a creator that is equally non-existent.
Oh, love this video. Love Zay's work. I'll link it in the chat, of course. Okay, now for those who were saying that Emma was doing a metaphorical thing, no, I don't think so. I think she was quite literal. This is why he pushes back on her and she doubles down. If it was a metaphor, she would have said, oh, I'm being metaphorical. But she didn't. She said, yeah, like, obviously, like what matters is what happens materially. She'll say, well, what's the material reality of Bernie Sanders if in private he's a Nazi, but in public he isn't? Because she thinks you can separate those things. Now, there is this conversation to be had. Can you separate your personal from the political? And we would say probably not. Because you bring with you your childhood history, your relationships, your biases, your prejudice, like everything you learned, we're a product of our environments, and they show up in the work that we create. So if politicians were artists, we would never say the artist and the artist are separate. I mean, we would try, but it's not true. Like the art is a reflection of the artist in many ways. That's why we make art. And so the question is, who are you? Are you your ideas? Are you the things you like? Now, I want to take this a step further and talk about how autism plays a role in this, because Elise Myers, who's controversial in her own right, is autistic, and she had an epiphany recently in her own life. And I don't follow her content like that, but I did see this video and I thought it was interesting. And I want to talk about this because I've been going through my own, as you know, constant deconstruction, constant introspective journey. And I'm always discovering like, damn, do I even like that? Or do I think I like that because of the way that I was raised? Do I like this? Or did I like it because of the nostalgia? Oh, did I think this movie was funny because it was funny? Or because my friends were laughing and therefore I was laughing? Do I like this video because it makes people happy, or because I think it's a good video? These are very complicated questions that take a lot of work, and it's never the first answer. It's always the 10th or 11th or 12th, right? So watch this.
A lot of this season of my life has been figuring out that I love things I thought I hated, and then figuring out I hate things I thought I loved. Like painting my nails, for example. Thought I hated having my nails painted. Turns out I just have like a really bad memory with somebody that used to take me to get my nails painted. I just didn't like the physical, like visual memory of this person on my hands. And so I did everything I possibly could to model my life so that I didn't remind myself of all of these things and all of these people that I didn't like. And as it turns out, I became like a museum of all of them anyways, because I wasn't even making decisions for myself. I was making decisions for them, but like in spite of them. And what a wild way to live, because they don't even know you're doing that. And they're just like taking up all this space in your head and your heart. Like all your decision power is just like going to like not being them. I could have been spending all that time realizing I really friggin' like whatever this vibe is. I don't know if it's a witch or I'm like a snake. I don't know. But I love this. Let me put it back in, sorry. Just gotta cook. Okay, I also am new. 30, almost, oh my God, I'm about to turn 33. Coolest age I've ever turned in my life, by the way. You can't convince me otherwise. And I am just now learning how to paint my nails. And it's not too late, it's right on time. Wow, you're doing it. And she is. We are. We're all doing it. That, doing my hair, learning my makeup, bras. really into bras right now. Turns out sports bras aren't the only bras I like. Sorry, I feel like that's too much information. Oh, another category, liking things that you did like because you liked other people that liked them, but learning you do also like them yourself. Short hair. Always wanted short hair because my brothers had short hair, and I felt like it was weird because I had to learn how to do all this extra hair, even though they just got to like cut it real short and put gel in their hair, so I used their gel to do my hair. And now I'm cutting my hair short because I genuinely love it. I like really like the way it looks. Yeah, just so much. Turning 30 was genuinely the best thing that ever happened to me. I've got
Same.
nothing to lose except a whole lot of like shame, self-doubt, insecurity, wasting time, emotional weight that I have been carrying like on behalf of myself and so many people that don't even know I'm doing that, lugging it behind me. Wow, she looks great. I think when you can like accept that you do actually love things that remind you of people you don't want to be reminded of is such an incredible step in like moving forward in your healing as a person and becoming like a whole and complete person and very yourself. And it's fun. I love that I feel like a little bit like a witch. Okay, everybody be quiet. A lot of this season of my life has been
I didn't mean it like that. Okay, so I like the video in general. I like the concept in general. I think it's very helpful. Look, turning 30 was absolutely a life-changing experience for me. I'm 37 now. Turning 30 was a life-changing experience. I learned so much about myself. I really solidified my values. I really thought, okay, Brittany, what do you want out of life? Not because everyone's telling you to want it, but what do you really want? What do you really care about? What's important to you? And I ask myself this question all the time, to update, to make sure that it's true for me. And it's a journey. It takes a long time. I mean, guys, remember when I started painting my nails on stream with bold colors? I was so afraid of painting my nails bold colors because I thought my nails looked ugly. And then I was like, I stopped biting my nails, which was amazing. I bit my nails my whole life. It was a stim, a comfort, everything to me. And then I got married and I hated the way my nails looked in my wedding photos. So I was like, I'm never biting my nails again. And boom, now I have nails that are grown and are growing. And then, yeah, like I paint them bold colors and you guys were there for that. You guys were there. This one day I showed up with red nail polish and you're like, whoa. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing a thing now. And now look at me. I just expanded my nail polish colors. Now I have green or turquoise and now I have yellow and who knows what I'll do next. You know what I mean? So there, you know, who am I? Am I the girl who has nail polish or am I the girl who never has nail polish? How does your identity end up manifesting, right? When I was younger, I read thousands of books and I always had a book on me. Everyone knew me as a girl who reads books. Brittany is the book reader. I haven't been that girl in years. You know, I'm still, you know, listening to audiobooks. I'm still reading. Oh, I got a physical book. It was on accident. My in-laws gave us a few physical books. So now I have physical books. I'm going to start reading them just because they're here and I can, because all books are good books, even bad books. And I'm just excited to hold the book in my hand and read. And there's something really exciting about that. But I'm no longer the girl who was reading a book a day. I used to read a book a day. The library had to make a special exception for me and let me take out 30 books a month because I was reading a book a day. They never let people take away that many books because they're like, there's no way you're reading that many books. I was like, I am reading those many, you know, I am. And I was working full time. That was my life. And I was partying on the weekends with my friends, going to gay clubs. Okay. So again, when we have these conversations, the question is, who are you? You're exactly who you are in this exact moment. The realest version of you is the person that exists right now. Right now. Right now. And even then, not so much. So who are you? Now, you guys know I've been on this possible vegan journey. And I'm being very cautious about the identity of veganism because I'm a public figure, because I will have videos made about me like Brittany Simon's no longer vegan or Brittany Simon is vegan. Like I don't listen, the pressure, okay? But hear me out. I've been plant-based for a year and a half now. I am enjoying this journey. It has become clearer and clearer to me every day that I just don't think I'm going to go back to eating animals. It's really hard to process that decision in terms of imagining doing it. Not the decision to not eat animals, but the decision to think about eating them. And so every day I consider it. I ask myself, like, would you like to eat an animal today? And I go, no, thank you. That's why I'm not vegan yet, because I'm still asking myself the question. But as I get closer and closer to transitioning into veganism, it always in the back of my head, I wonder, what is up with people who are formerly vegan? Alex O'Connor comes to mind. But then I saw this TikTok here by Amelia, who I do not watch. But again, this TikTok came up. So let's watch this together.
I was vegan for 5 years and people are always like, oh, what made you stop? And then I have to be like, yeah, so basically I was at my friend's birthday dinner when I was 23 and she had ordered spinach artichoke dip for the table. And I guess just like my frontal lobe was coming together at that moment and it was like, like I am not solving factory farming by not having some of this. And then I got back on the cheese and chicken wagon the day after.
Okay, so there's a multiple layers to this. So people would say then you were never vegan. So this is where my struggle comes in with the identity. Veganism is a philosophical framework that validates the quality and importance and individuality of sentience, meaning that it's not a harm reduction philosophy, even though it can be described as a harm reduction philosophy, but it's not harm reduction alone. So she was engaging in veganism as a harm reduction philosophy. And then once she decided that it wasn't harm reduction enough for society, she gave it up. Instead of thinking it's harm reduction for herself, which is how I engage in the world, I do the right thing because I have control over myself. So I harm reduce to the best of my ability, which is why I'm plant-based. Because I don't care if the world isn't going to change with me being plant-based. I don't need to engage in unnecessary harm. So I'm plant-based, right? If I was waiting around for the world to change, girlies, no offense, I wouldn't do anything. Because if I only did things if I thought the rest of the world was going to do it, no offense to you guys, but you're not doing enough. You know what I mean? Like nobody's doing enough, not even me. So there's no reason to wait for the rest of the world to do the right thing. So I'm just going to do it anyways. And I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And that's what I'm doing. With that said, you do have to advocate for society and systems to change. Absolutely. And right. So her decision to say my frontal lobe formed and I realized me not eating this dip isn't going to change it is definitely true, but that means she wasn't vegan. She was plant-based. And now the reason I hesitate to call myself vegan is I ask myself, will I ever have one of these moments? Will I ever have a moment where I look at a plate of chicken and I say, you know what, girl? It is what it is. And then I eat this chicken. Or will I ever look at a glass of milk and say like, who's really being hurt though? The reason I think not, so I'm citing on the not, is because the me that is I think she's having an experience of being disgusted at the swallowing aspect of this experience. So when I imagine me swallowing a glass of milk, I start to get nauseous knowing that it was meant for babies that are not my babies, and knowing the horrific nature of gathering that milk and what had to happen for that milk to be produced. So then I'm like, ugh, I'm disgusted. When I think about eating meat, I just become disgusted. And a disgust response is not a reason to do something, because disgust responses are also not always logical, reasonable, or emotionally sound. So it can't be the reason I don't eat it. Disgust is actually, I think, the wrong reason to do something, because a lot of people have disgust responses to like homosexuality, but that's because they probably have childhood trauma or something related to it. That doesn't mean that homosexuality is wrong because you're disgusted by it. So disgust is not the good reason to be vegan. Okay, so then it's like, well, what is veganism? Okay, and then this is the layer of why I plan to talk to Elle about veganism. Again, I want to reach out to her to talk to her about it, because I'm trying to figure out like, what is veganism and where do I need to get to the point where I call myself a vegan? I think I know, I think I get it, but then the I that is me, even if materially I am vegan in many ways, I'm still not vegan. Because the I that is me is not having an embodied experience of vegan, right? Chad says, can you be vegan now and then not a vegan later? Or is the title you have to claim once and it's forever? Well, the thing is that now that it's been explained to me by Elle, the vegan gaze, okay, not G-A-Z-E, is that it's like realizing that women deserve the right to vote, and then in the future being like, actually, should women have the right to vote? It's like, why would I ever think that women wouldn't have the right to vote? Like, in what reality would I ever change my mind on this? Now, women do. We just reviewed the MAGA women who all decided they would give up their vote to their husbands or the household if needed. But I can't imagine a world where Brittany gives up the right to vote as a woman. I just can't see it. So the question is, in what world would I vote for that? And that's the question. In what world would I advocate? So then I wonder if you think about it like that, I think, oh yeah, like If I'm vegan, I know what that feels like because I know what it feels like to say I'm never changing my mind on this. Women are always going to have the right to vote in my mind. All people will have the right to vote. I'm not changing my mind on this. Now, this is subjective morality because objective morality doesn't exist. So also even veganism is subjective morality. It's subjective morality based on the sentience of the creature, their feelings of pain, and the fact that they have wants and needs. And that's why veganism, though subjective, is still predicated on the value of the creature. So Indiana, here I am taking my cat to the vet, spending hundreds of euros, crying over the fact that she could die. And then here's billions of animals being bred into existence just to be slaughtered so we can eat In-N-Out. They are producing, imagine if they had a cat farm producing cats so we can eat cat burgers. That's what's happening. So, in one side of the world, I'm spending all of this, right? Chet says plants feel pain, but it's not verbal. They do not feel pain the way that sentient creatures feel pain. So though we acknowledge that plants are alive, they do not actually have the same receptors that animals as it relates to veganism do. So I hear you on that, but that's not actually an argument against veganism. And if plants felt pain the same way, we would just figure out how not to eat plants, right? So even though the argument sounds reasonable, it's actually fucking stupid because obviously if we can figure out how to not eat cows, we can figure out how not to eat plants. Just as plants do scream though, they do not scream. They don't have vocal cords. They do let out a, what you could argue is a scream, but it's just called a scream. It's not an actual scream. They don't have vocal cords. Okay. So I hear you. It is not a scream though. Thank you. Okay. Next TikTok example of who you are and how you're perceived in the way that you view yourself. Okay. We get it. It's a gender. Okay. It's funny. I'm a gender deconstructionist, but I do think this is funny of like real men this, real men that. I do think this is why we say there's no such thing as a real man, a real woman, a real whatever. But it is a funny idea, right? This idea. And I like it. I think it's a way to kind of be fun. It's a comedic context. But again, this idea of like, who am I? So his partner comes out to him and says, I think I might be a they, him. This is why we say like who you are in the realest moment is the realest you. And this is why, like, who are you today? I wake up every day and I say, who am I today? Not because I don't know, but because I'm here to be ready to experience a change. Like I said, a year and a half ago, I did a 30-day challenge that led me into a year and a half long journey of being plant-based. And, I wake up every day and I think, who is she? I can't tell you how many times I sat at the table and thought, oh my God, am I not going to eat animals again? And it's weird experiencing a change in real time. Now, here's the difference. And this is the tool I want to give you guys if you can hopefully use it. Is I used to feel like my life was happening to me. Like I wouldn't be able to observe my life happening. I'd be able to introspect after, hindsight is 2020, but I wouldn't be able to in the moment acknowledge it. I did a little bit with Jasmine the other day on stream. I did a collab with a YouTuber named Jasmine and I said, oh, look, we're doing it. And I pointed out that we were having an experience. Now, for some people that can be a little offensive because you're pointing out something that you're not supposed to point out. But I think she enjoyed it probably, and you guys seem to enjoy it. But it's to say that, oh, look, we can observe in real time. We're doing the thing. We're having a moment. I know when I met my partner and we were dating and courting, we were like, oh my God, we're having that experience that people talk about in movies and books. We're having it. And we were like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And then we jump back into it and be in the moment. And then we'd zoom out and be like, oh my God, we're like doing the love thing. We're like falling in love. Versus before I would fall in love and I wouldn't even know it was happening. It was like I was on the roller coaster, but now I'm on the roller coaster and then I can stand on the sidelines and be like, ooh, she's about to go. Oh, she's about to, ooh. And then I can jump back in the roller coaster and put my arms up and woo. But then I can jump out and watch it happen. I'm like, oh, there she goes. Whoop, there's a loop-de-loop. That's what philosophy gives you it's the tool to see perception. It's the tool to jump out of your 2 feet and say, what if I was somewhere else? What if I was experiencing a different version of myself? This is what meditation gets you. Meditation gives you the ability to kind of like observe yourself in the multitudes that is you. Okay. So that's what I want you to do. That's what I want you to ask yourself when you're saying, who am I? What does it mean to be I alone and I in community? And who is the I that we're even talking about? Okay. Let's hear from the gays.
What do you think about individuals, gay and Latinos, that are like MAGA supporters?
It's like bottoms being for IBS.
or tops being for ED.
Okay, again, but this is okay. Listen, this is kind of the irony of being a person, though, because we do live this way. This is what vegans are saying when they're saying you say you're an animal lover, but you eat animals. You say you love women, but you're advocating for them to get their vote taken away. You say you believe in choice, but you're stopping medical professionals from being able to perform medical procedures. You say you want small government, but you're voting for government overreach. This is the irony of living in a world where we do live in constant cognitive dissonance. This is why I, in my meditative practice, is always about, okay, Britt, morals are subjective. We're animals on a planet. There's no God coming to tell us we're going to hell. We exist now, we'll die tomorrow. And, truly, there's no reason to be a good person unless I want to be a good person. So since we've decided to attempt to be a good person, what is a moral framework that is flexible and can be updated, but allows us to live in a world where we harm reduce and doesn't have to become something rigid in our life like a religion? Okay, so then we created a framework, Brittany, and I put together rules for myself. And I said, okay, here are my rules. And I said, we're going to update these rules, but what are the things that are important to me? And then I started to, my identity would change and the way I would view myself and the way I observe people. And the reason that my work, I think, is so specifically, it's not unique, but it is different compared to most of the people I'm associated with on the internet. And that's because I'm attempting to do something that the rest of them aren't really thinking about, because most of them are Emma Vigeland. And Emma is thinking, we have to win at any cost. And I'm saying, what good is winning if I have to sell my soul? What good is, your money if it's dirty? What good is any of this if it's for the wrong reason? Now, the wrong reason, again, is subjective. It is a subjective experience. And the subjective experience I have is guilt and shame and disappointment and, a desire to want something more, because truthfully, this isn't enough. Living in a world where our whole life is American politics or global politics isn't enough for me. I will kill myself. If you tell me that my parents forced me into existence just to deal with politics, girl, give me the Kool-Aid. Give it to me. I'm going to take that shot right now. But I don't think that's all life is. I don't think life is only political. I think life is philosophical. It is amazing that we exist. And there's so much good in that inherently. Be political, be informed, and vote. But it's not your whole life. It just impacts every part of your life. These are two different things. So again, introspection, who you are alone, extrospection, who you are with community. Of course, politics matters. Of course, it's everything, but it can't be everything. Yes, it impacts your partners, your houses, where you live, your relationship with your family, your economic status, your health status. Everything is political. And I will kill myself right now if you tell me I don't get to exist also outside of it. But you don't have to kill yourself, because you do exist outside of it. You were born free. So you need to liberate your spirit and lock in and help your community, girl, because it's suffering. You got to do both. Okay? So when Emma says, I wouldn't care if Bernie Sanders or AOC were secret Nazis, what she's forgetting, much like people who don't pay attention to politics, is that it will impact everything else. If Bernie Sanders is a secret Nazi, it will show up in his policy, even if you don't read the fine print. Okay? It will show up in his relationships. It will show up in people he hires. It will show up in the way that he communicates with people, because it does. We know it does, right? So I understand what she's saying. She's saying, yeah, but what is he really? Okay, watch it again. Watch it again.
Some people are in Washington right now, and they're a secret Nazi of over-focusing on an individual's personal character over their platform. I've said this before. I don't really care if, say, Bernie Sanders or AOC go home and they're a secret Nazi, but they go out and they vote for the right things. We're talking about
you don't
politicians
care?
As I mean,
I don't know about that. I think these are the lines that people are talking about. Some people care about that exact thing.
But why would it matter if they're public officials and they're doing the right thing in public?
See?
That's an extreme
But why would
example
it
to essentially
matter?
say.
Why would it matter if they're public figures and they're doing the right thing? Because we know we are products of our environment. Girlies, the way your parents talk to you when you're a kid it's gonna show up in your coworker relationships, your job relationships, your school relationships. Guys, we are everything we are and more. You are more than politics, but you are politically impacted. You are more than your parents' kid, but you are your parents' kid. Okay? Parents are the politics in this metaphor. We are impacted by everything we were and everything that came before us. I mean, your genetic predispositions, the way you exist in this meat suit dictates how the world treats you. Like, you don't get to go home and be a secret Nazi and say it doesn't impact anything I do at work. Everything that ever was is going to impact everything that will ever be. Okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, this idea and this concept is a dream. It is not real. And the realest part, the best thing you can do is to live in the absolute present moment and really contend with yourself and ask yourself, who are you? Are you lying to yourself? Can you do more? Can you do less? What bad am I doing today? For me, this would be philosophically evil. This is philosophical evil to me. Coming to the internet and saying, guys, I know you're a bad person behind closed doors, but just don't let the internet see. Absolutely fucking not. They have to reflect each other. Now, chat brought it up earlier because I brought up the streamer Destiny, and this was our beef together, and people for literally so long were dragging me on Reddit, dragging me everywhere. What does it matter? What does it matter what he does behind closed doors? Because it comes up in your work. This is the misogyny I feel with Hassan Piker and everybody else because it impacts your work. This is my issue too. Guys, you think my childhood trauma doesn't impact the work I make? So we always have to deal with it. We have to contend with it. You think the way I was raised doesn't come up in my work? Of course it does. And it has over the years. That's why we do the work, right? Okay. He also said, and chat brought it up, that he told IOF soldiers, stop filming yourselves doing stupid shit and putting it on the internet. That was Destiny's advice when he went to Israel to talk to IOF soldiers. Stop filming yourself playing with people's underwear and destroying Palestinian homes because it looks bad. It matters. It matters what people do when they go home. The fact that Emma thinks Bernie Sanders could go home and be a Nazi and that doesn't impact the way he treats people is absolutely insane. Now, of course, you could say it's because she's a white woman. And yeah, that plays a role, definitely. Which is ironic because if her being a white woman plays a role in her racism, how do you think Bernie Sanders being a Nazi is going to play a role in his? This is the point. We really, really, really think that we are unique and special to a degree that we get to defy everything that ever was before us. We are animals on a planet. We are limited. Do we even have free will? Doesn't look like it, okay? Because if we had free will and this is what we created, we are at the mercy of wherever we are on our introspection journey. We are at the mercy of our ego and our humility. If we want to be wise, we have to have the humility to recognize we're all doing something wrong, and yet have the wisdom to know you're not as bad as the hood-wearing Nazis, okay? You being white doesn't mean you're a Nazi, but you being white means we have to deconstruct a lot of the white propaganda we've been fed that is always going to come at the expense of people of color, specifically Black people, on a global scale. Okay, so you might not have a KKK insignia. You might not have a hood at home. You might not hang out with people that say the N-word. You might not do XYZ. But if you are not deconstructing your whiteness, you will come up on a show on Vox in front of a Black man and say to him, you don't care if someone's a secret Nazi. And at some point, it's not worse materially. It is worse in the sense that you would expect better from Emma. So then you're saying, hey, I expect better from you. You're supposed to be on the right side. But if the good people on the right side are more than happy with secret Nazis, and this is why we'll have Black creators, Black philosophers say Black people have no allies. Because the people that are supposed to be our allies are okay with the people they vote for being secret Nazis. It's all connected, you know? So again, when we have these conversations, of course, Graham Platner was elected and promoted by these people because ultimately they didn't care that he was killing kids in places they didn't care about, or that he was a soldier or a guard at Abu Ghraib, or that he did any of those things. And again, we are all flawed. There's so much from my own history, so much from your own history. None of us are exempt. We're not exempt, but not all of us are this bad. Not all of us are always going to be this bad either. So it's a balancing act between saying you can do something about philosophical evil and we all engage in it always, even the best of us. Because what we do is we build like this pedestal. These are great philosophers. These are great men. These are great people. They're still doing bad things. Okay? They're still doing bad things. And that's the point. The point is, okay, could anyone ever be perfect enough? No, but they didn't need to be. They just didn't have to be this bad either. So chat says, I struggle with this because I wonder where the line on purity testing the politicians we elect are. Look, they're asking for power, right? When a politician asks you for their support, your support, they're asking you for power. Out of all the people we should be holding to a higher standard, it's people who have power over us. And we need to accept that people have pasts. But to say that we have a country of 350 million people and we can't find anyone to elect who doesn't have a past, like Graham Platner, feels like a fucking lie, because it is a lie. It is a lie. Okay? Now, of course, realistically, your parents are worse, probably, than some of these politicians, and these politicians are probably worse than some of your parents. But the question is, who has power? And this, again, goes into not becoming so strict that you're like, nobody should have babies because nobody's a good parent, because now who's going to regulate that? The question isn't purity testing. The question is, why can't humans attempt to be better? Why is it so scary for us to say, I wonder if we could be better? And it's because the same people that are asking us to be better suck too. It's because most of the people asking you to be better suck, myself included. And then it feels defeatist, right? Like, damn, everybody sucks though. Yeah, we do. We should still probably do something about it. But I suck. You suck. We all suck. So we should probably do something about that because kids are watching us. So it's about humility. It's about accepting that, like, you sucking doesn't mean you can't do something about it. But man, it really sucks to be a person. And it's also one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I'm so grateful to be here, and you make my life better. And I'm so glad to have you as an audience. And I'm so glad to have this as my job. And I'm so glad that I found the love of my life, and I have this beautiful cat, and I love my family. And I'm so excited that I get to watch a sunset every day and live in a place with a water view and see a mountain and cry because of its beauty. And I am grateful that I get to eat good food and watch TV shows where I roll my eyes and I talk about how problematic they are. And I'm so grateful to be alive on this tiny rock floating in space for the short time that I get to be here. We have to have the humility to know that we really are just on a floating rock in space. And then have the confidence to believe in ourselves and the people around us so we can attempt to make the world a better place. Because I think we're so capable of it. You know? I just think we forgot that we're capable of it. And so in many ways we feel like we're giving up. You know, you can always give up. It's an option. You can do that. And also, you can also just take a break. Take a break and then come back. Take a rest day and then come back. Don't give up. Take a break. And then when you come back, you'll be refreshed, you'll be capable, you'll be ready, because you are a biological creature. You need rest and food and stability, which is why movements of oppression take that first from people. They take your hope, then they take your water, they take your food, okay? Or I guess it's in reverse, really. They start taking your resources, and then they take your hope with them. And I'm saying the tactics of the oppressors and their decision to spend their one life on earth doing this does not need to define everybody else. But if everybody is on board with the oppressor, then that's also a part of radical acceptance that's hard to stomach. Because if we weren't on board with the oppressors, then how could the world really be this way? Which is why I'm sick of people pretending like America isn't MAGA. I'm sick of Democrats making fucking TikToks saying this isn't what America is. America's better than this. Well, then why are we here? If America was better than this, then why are we here? And that's how you have the evidence that things are getting better, right? Like, we get better. Like, the proof of my life getting better is the proof that my life is literally, it's doing better. America isn't doing better. The proof that America isn't working is that it's not doing better. We're going backwards. And so that's how I want you to look at your own life. If your life is getting better and you're doing more things for your community, then you're on the right track, girlies. If your life is still in chaos, if you are losing hope, if you're spiraling, that means we're still in a bad place. Okay? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be over the hump of healthy. So let me give you one more graph and then we'll end this segment. Okay? When it comes to politicians, yourself, your country, there's a line in the sand. Okay? There's unhealthy, okay? And there's healthy. We don't need to purity test. We need you to get over this hump into healthy. Good enough, in hopes that once you're there, you'll keep going. Not that you'll stop here, but that you'll keep going is the goal. And look, when we have our favorites and we criticize them, it's because we have to move people forward. Just like you guys did with me. Just like you guys did with me. Every time I fail or I don't live up to my own values, and you guys go, Britt, how does this reflect your values? And I know you're being good faith and I believe you. It is an opportunity for me to go, wait, am I doing this? You're right. Let me think about this. Now, if I think you're being bad faith, I'm not going to listen to you. But if I know you're coming from a good place and you really understand me in a philosophical sense, then I definitely will sit there and go, hold on, are they right? Maybe I'm getting lost in the sauce. Just like we saw with underzealots, overzealots, he was getting lost in the sauce of debating Republicans that he sounded like a liberal. He's like, how did I make this argument about, I don't remember who it was now, so-and-so's military service as if it was a good thing. And I'm like, yeah, how did you fall for that? And it's because sometimes we get so wrapped up in the bubble of fighting the oppressor, we use tactics against the oppressor that don't actually reflect our values. And this is why I say it takes a lot of effort to be introspective, a lot of effort to do the right thing, and there's a lot of effort to live within your values consistently. Oh, Tim Walz, thank you. Tim Walz, thank you. Exactly. Like that's the hard part about being introspective is you got to constantly doing it. And girl, it's exhausting. You know, Chat says, would anyone mind describing radical acceptance for me? What makes it different from regular acceptance that the world sucks? Chat, okay. Radical acceptance is accepting things for what they are instead of what you want them to be. Accepting that the world sucks is not radical acceptance. That's an opinion. I don't accept that the world is anything more than it is. And then what it is comes after. Radical acceptance is accepting things for what they are instead of what you want them to be. That's what radical acceptance is. It's a radical acceptance of what is. Period. Once you radically accept what something is, then we can talk about what to do. But if you haven't accepted what it is, then you're going to attach an opinion and attach an action to it that doesn't make sense. You know? Right? Chet says, I think radical acceptance may be better applied to personal things that have happened to you, just an opinion. So radical acceptance is, it's multiple things to different bubbles, but it heavily comes from Eastern philosophy, which is to accept the ocean for what it is instead of pretending it's a pond. It's to accept the earth for what it is and instead of pretending it's a spaceship. It's accepting your family for what they are instead of it's a relationship with philosophy. It's a framework of understanding. So when you guys say radical acceptance is more personal, what does that mean? Like, what is that? Everything is personal. Politics is personal. Liking something is personal. Philosophy is personal. There is no separation from the personal. Everything is personal, just like everything is political. What does that mean? You know? Like radical acceptance is this, it's a tool for you, but it's also a framework of understanding. It's something you have to discover is true because it exists outside of you. Whether you like it or not, there is a truth outside of you that exists. The world doesn't revolve around your fucking brain, bro. But you need to change your brain in order to accept what is. Do you know what I'm saying? So radical acceptance, of course, is for you as a tool to accept the world around you, but it's also to say it doesn't revolve around you. The world doesn't revolve around you. You know what I'm saying? It's to see everything for what it is instead of what you want it to be. Do you understand? It has to be both things. You have to radically accept introspect, radically accept extrospect. Okay? So it's always about the balance of the relationship between what I see, my brain sees, and what exists outside of my brain. You know what I mean? I hope that helps. But it has to be twofold. It can't be one or the other. Otherwise, you don't have a full picture. And that's really what my levels are. If you have one or the other, that's not 5. If you're a 5, you have both. So 2s have some bubbled understanding of both. Or maybe I should say, this is going into my levels, which is a work in progress. So maybe we shouldn't get into it. But there is a difference between, you can be a 2 bubble person and think, okay, myself in relation to my bubble and outside of the bubble, but see how that's still just a bubble? The 5 is saying, I understand the world can't exist just through the lens of my brain, that I assume when I die, you'll all be here. So it can't be about me. But my life is obviously about me because I'm the only one who has to live in this body and live in this brain and live in these finances and live in this. It's both things. Radical acceptance is for me to accept that the world is what it is, and for me to accept that the world isn't defined by me, right? Let's see. Let's get some chat info on this. Radical acceptance is a choice to see reality for what it is, to the best of your ability, given the limitations of our perception, like that. Okay. Chat says, that's my definition because it doesn't make sense to me to apply it to bigger problems. That's more awareness and understanding. Okay, look, it is your opinion. It's a limiting opinion, in my opinion, because when you say it doesn't apply to bigger problems, that's more awareness and understanding. That's still just like self-awareness, which doesn't matter. Saying, like, again, if you want to solve problems for bigger issues, you have to accept that they exist. You have to first accept that people are dying in America from starvation to make sure everybody is fed. Because if you don't radically accept that the world is suffering, you have to radically accept that the world is racist in order to solve racism, which would partially be accepting that you can't solve racism. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not sure if, the 8 billion people on the planet, we're all having a different experience. We're all doing it for different reasons. But we keep asking why the world doesn't change. And it's because we're not accepting it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? Chet says, I don't believe radical acceptance is useful if we're going to stop oppression and violence, to give an example. But we haven't stopped oppression and violence because we haven't accepted that it exists. There are people who deny racism right now. There are people who are saying oppression isn't real. There are people who are saying that there's no oppression because they're not radically accepting that there's oppression. They literally don't think it's real. We just watched a MAGA interview where the woman didn't know January 6th happened. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying radical acceptance is for all of us to accept we live on a planet floating through space. Like, there are people who think the earth was created 6,000 years ago. There are people who think the earth is flat. There are people who think we live in the Matrix. Do you know what I mean? So we have to seek radical acceptance by seeking what is true rather than what we think is true or what we want to be true, so we can start solving problems. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah, chat says there's still people that think that classism isn't directly linked to racism and gender issues. That's what I'm saying about radical acceptance. Like, for me, my biggest radical acceptance reality was like, oh my God, like the world really is the way it is because we are the way that we are. Like, I kept thinking that if you just gave people good data, they would change their mind. Right? But that's not true. Chet said, like, understanding objective truth. Understanding that there is an objective truth, whether we have access to it or not. It's about accepting that something is true, but we might not know what it is because we have this filter that is our brain. Because we have all of our biases and predispositions. I mean, look at this conversation right now. I'm trying to explain to you that something exists outside of you, and chat's like, oh, but personally, this is my opinion. I know it's your opinion, but that is not the arbiter of end all be all. You said, I think it's better if we do this, my opinion. But then you just limited the options, right? You're limiting the option, and I'm saying, but it's bigger than you. And the comment is like, oh, but personally, this is how I see it. Of course, that's personally how you see it. But now, because you personally see it that way, now our limit is this, right? And I'm saying it's bigger than you. But this is important for you, right? Chet said, I feel it is negative, but I misunderstand. I perceive it as just giving up. Oh, radical acceptance is the opposite of giving up. Radical acceptance is seeing it for what it is and then doing something about it. Radical acceptance is always perceived as giving up because God knows the world has not trained us to radically accept anything. Every bubble you grew up in, every religious Christian fucking bubble you grew up in was the opposite of radical acceptance. It was a denial that gay people existed, a denial that racism was real, a denial that God was this, a denial. So when you grow up in a world and a culture that is denial, 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 God forbid we talk about radical acceptance for seeing the world what it is, when all of our propaganda is denial. You didn't just see that with your eyes. You didn't just see ICE shoot somebody innocent. You didn't just see the US military kidnapping people off the streets. You didn't just see the genocide of a population. Oh, no, 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 no. That didn't happen. Our whole existence is the denial of what we're seeing, because that it fits into those. And I'm saying it doesn't matter what is true. To the best of our ability, can we figure it out? And then radical acceptance allows you to accept that we're flawed, accept that we can't always know, and accept that we should still do something about it. It's accepting things for what they were, right? Chat says, at first I thought it was nihilism, but it's the opposite, isn't it? Wow, cool. It is the opposite. It's like, nihilism is we're on a floating rock in space and nothing matters. Radical acceptance is like the realization of it's not about me. Nihilism is ego driven. I. Okay? And I'm saying radical acceptance is about understanding. It's about a relationship. It's about really embodying a belief and saying, oh, okay, yeah, I'm so sorry I didn't see it before. Let's move forward from this point. It's about really understanding, you know? Just as radical acceptance is like turning on the lights in your room you haven't cleaned in months, and now you can see how dirty it really is and what needs to be cleaned the most. Exactly. Yeah. Radical acceptance helps us better progress. We have to know what is and accept it in order to move forward and do better most effectively. Absolutely. Chat says, wait, so there are people living their life pretending real problems do not exist? Oh, girl, about 8 billion of them. Yes, ma'am. Billions of people. Billions of people. Billions of people. Billions of people. Yeah. All day, every day. All day, every day. Yeah, absolutely. Chat says, were you nihilistic at 4? So when I was like working through the levels, we would call it 2 nihilism versus 4 nihilism, but I think it confuses people. 2 nihilists, again, the levels are about the difference between centering your existence on the earth and centering it on bigger than the earth. So most people think the earth is everything. Like they think this is the only thing that is real. Even if you have a guy who loves space, he doesn't really understand that it's real. He thinks humans are separate from nature. And I'm saying we are nature experiencing itself. So if you live on a planet of 8 billion people and they think they're separate from nature, then there's this idea that we're transcending nature. Level 4 is the realization of like radical acceptance of like the world. You know, when you have the realization that your parents were abusive and you're like, oh my God, I was abused. And it's like, whoa. And then you have to radically accept that you were abused. Okay, now imagine doing that for everything in existence, not just planet Earth. So 2 nihilists will be like, oh man, dude, are we just like a floating rock in space, bro? Is there like nothing? Oh my God, is there nothing? And I'm saying, no, there's not nothing. There's all of this. There's all of a lot of something. No, there's no nothing. There's all of this, okay? So you're accepting that there's no inherent meaning to existence, meaning no God, no script. But if there's a God, it's going to make sense that he belongs in the framework of the world we exist in, versus the concept of God now is that he exists outside of our frameworks. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying, who could have created an idea of a God better than a human brain? Okay? So it's that realization of like, oh, we are the way that we are because this is like, we have no free will. There is no choice. There's only the illusion of choice based off where you are in your life. Like Emma had no choice in choosing Graham Platner. She made the choice that she thought she could make with her brain. And I'm saying, let's see if she can make a different choice now if she learns and has the realization. But she didn't have the realization because now she's making an argumentation for secret Nazis living in their home. So she didn't learn the lesson. She didn't get it. She doesn't know why she picked Graham Platner. She doesn't understand why she defended him. She's not actually getting it. So yes, she's apologizing and that's good, but she doesn't actually get it, why it was wrong. Because then she came into this interview. So we can know things, but the embodiedness is what's missing, you know? Okay, let me scroll up. I bet I missed a lot of good comments, okay? Let me see. Yeah, my parents, to start, just look in your everyday environment. Are you saying I don't know if this is what you're saying, Chatter, because I'm just saying it, but let me just tell you this. Your everyday environment starts to look really normal. You ever go to somebody else's house and you're like, oh, other people live different than me? If you're in your house every day and your parents are doing stuff and this looks normal to you, and then you travel and you go, oh my God, wait, the world does it different. And then instead of looking at the world that does it different and judging, you go, wait, can I live like this too? Now, it gives you an opportunity to say, wait, can we do this better? When I learned about informed consent, I was like, wait, can I just ask in an informed way and people aren't going to get mad at me? Can I talk about whether or not you have an STI and people won't get mad at me? Can I have a conversation about condoms and birth control and this is normal? Can I ask about your former partners? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, chat says exactly. Chat says knowing doesn't equal understanding. Exactly. And a lot of us are trained to know things. We're not trained to understand. We're not trained to really, guys, I can't tell you the cringiest conversations I used to have with people in the past because I wasn't getting it. I was getting it, but I wasn't getting it. I can't even, it haunts me. It haunts me. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm like, I can't believe I had that conversation with somebody. And it's because it wasn't clicking. It wasn't clicking. And that's what I say. Like, if I had the free will, you think it would have clicked. But I obviously had to go through a journey. So this is why we wait for people. And we also don't wait for people. If people are going through a journey, we wait because they might not get it. And their whole lifetime, they might not get it. You can have hope. I always do. But that doesn't mean you have to give them your time or your effort or your defense, right? It just means you have to wait and see what they'll do with this information. And if they change, great. And if they don't, okay. Just like with you. Maybe you'll stop being the person who lets food go to waste in your fridge and you'll eat it all before it goes bad. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll be the person who is on time, or maybe you won't be. Maybe you'll be the person who brushes their teeth every day, or maybe you won't be. You know, maybe you'll be the girlie who goes to the gym every day, or maybe you won't be. I don't know. And we'll never know because wanting it isn't enough. You can't just want it, right? It has to be something more than that. Chess says enlightenment isn't the goal, or is it squares and circles thing where enlightenment is joy, but joy isn't enlightenment? Look, before enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. Enlightenment is a framework we've created to express an experience. But it's not like, oh, I hit it, so now I get to live, my life is going to be different. Your life is different in the sense that you have a different relationship with chopping wood and carrying water. But the goal is not to be enlightened, because if your goal is to be enlightened, it makes enlightenment sound like it's like my goal is $100,000 in the bank. Like, it's not a game of Monopoly. It's a game of discovery. You can't guarantee the discovery. You can only make the effort to know, but it's not an ego thing. Because if enlightenment was about ego, it wouldn't be called enlightenment. It's about humility and wisdom, and it's a journey, and you might get there or you might not. And then you die, you know? Let me scroll up in case I missed something. Chat says, let me see. I have a question. When you talk about the levels, I feel as though I've gone through all of it, but I don't know if it is because I can't understand what you're saying, or is it because I have actually gone through it? You haven't. You know, listen, I can tell based off of your comment sections, usually where you guys are at on the journey, because with peace and love, your comments are telling. You guys are on a different journey. You're still experiencing so much of the grieving process. Didn't you just tell me the other day about your family going through a grieving process about watching FIFA? Girl, you're in it right now. You haven't gone through the levels, and that's okay because you're busy doing your journey. Don't rush it. Go through the process. You know what I mean? Go through the process. Let yourself feel it. It's real. It's a process. And the goal is not to be a 5. The goal is to go through the process. The goal is to mourn, is to feel. Like, don't rush it. Feel it. You're in such an important time in your life right now. You're experiencing so much like a bubble pop. It's such an important moment. Enjoy the moment, be in the moment, really be in the most present. That's the best advice I can give you for all of this. Be in the most present of who you are in the moment. Stop thinking about future you. They already exist. You've already died. Okay? Listen, you've already died. You've already lived your life. You've already been an old person. Cancer already got you. A car already hit you. Everything's already happened. Okay? The goal is to live in the most present, because everything that will be, and everything that was has been. Okay? And that's what it is. And when you live in the most present all of the time, to the best of your ability, when you can, this is why meditation helps, then you get to experience not the fear of where am I going? but the enjoyment of where I am. Where is the I that is in this very moment? Every breath you take, every move you make. You know what I mean? You have to live in the most present. So the other day, as I was in bed with my partner, and we were holding each other, and we're looking at Indiana, we in the most present moment of our life, we're so grateful for the fact that the other existed, for the fact that we had this time with this beautiful animal, and all we can do is continue living in the most present of how special this family we've built is, and how important and intimate it is to know that one day we will all die. But for now, we are not dead, and so we will live. And that's what it's about. We're not going to die tomorrow, hopefully, but we might. So for today, for right now, while I'm alive, I will hold them and love them and kiss them, and I will hope for another day. And that's what we're doing. And that's why I say, like, the more introspective you become, I really think the more loving you become. I really think the more compassionate you become, and the less bullshit comes out of your mouth. Like, I don't care if you're a secret Nazi at home. Oh, girly, where can love be if Nazism is there? What did Bell Hooks say? How can there be love if there is abuse? We think we know what love is because we experience this thing, and I think that's so fair, and that's a version of love maybe. But the purest version of love, I think, is a version of radical acceptance. You know? I really think it's a really deep, profound version of radical acceptance. You know, to mourn well, to live well, and to love well. We have to add mourning into this. So I know you're going through it right now. Mourn well. It will liberate you so significantly, I cannot tell you. If you can mourn well, you will experience a feeling of joy that I think we all deserve to feel. I really believe that. Yeah. Okay, with that said, I actually think I'm out of spoons. But you know what? That was a great segment to end on because I think it's just so important. I just want you to have so much hope for the world by experiencing a radical acceptance that will liberate you so you can help liberate the world. Because girlies, you're not going to help anybody if you're drowning, you know? And rely on your community. We didn't get here alone. Okay? I am who I am. I am who I am because of my community. I am who I am because of you. I am who I am because of every single person I've ever met in my whole life. I did not do this alone. I will never do anything alone. No matter how alone you feel in the world, we never do anything alone. No, not our successes or our failures. It's never your fault. It is always your responsibility. Okay, we are all responsible for the world as it is. Okay, the world is a reflection of us as a whole. Our lives are a reflection of us as a whole. And your life is, it's really your creation, but it's also a group project. Okay, so don't beat yourself up if you feel like you're showing up every day and the rest of your classmates aren't showing up every day, because that's definitely how some of it is happening right now. Be kind to yourselves. I think that's really, really important. I'm not just saying that because it sounds like a good outro. You must be kind to yourself. It is a moral obligation you must have. I believe you should put it in your values list. You must be kind and compassionate to yourself. Compassion to suffer with. You must. So it is a reflection of everything you do with everything that you are. You are kind and compassionate. Okay? It's vital. It's important. It's the foundation of good love, I think. And the path towards wisdom. Humility, compassion, kindness.